Hey fam, welcome to Driven Live TV. Welcome to another video. Thank you so much for tuning in today and for taking time to watch today's video. So today we'll be reacting to women regretting feminism. And so remember, this is not a bashing of women. This is actually trying to expose the evils of feminism. And my fundamental belief is actually that you cannot be a serious believer, a serious Christian, and actually adopt all the things that feminism stands for. I get it. There are some things that have looked more pious over the years that feminism has fought for, and I'm going to highlight them in the video as well. But for the most part, especially the origins of feminism and also the things that it's actually perpetrating in our time right now, these are things that are evil, and I don't know how a believer can actually align herself or himself with such a movement. So we're going to analyze that, I think, briefly. So first of all, we'll watch one video and then we'll watch another one towards the end. So please stay in the video, stay with the video, and I believe this is going to be beneficial to some level. Let's react to the first video right now.
Thought today feels more of like a supremacist movement.
In my opinion, I feel like feminism has morphed into something that I hate, and it takes away everything that makes us feminine and beautiful.
True.
It's all rooted in bitter woman, if I'm really being honest. It's not
From
coming
the
from
beginning.
a happy place.
Being a modern working woman actually made me angry and resentful to men and to my family and to my husband.
Interesting.
The only men that feminists like are men dressing as women.
Day 6, you want to be
Weirdly
a girl.
enough,
Really reversing what the other waves of feminism fought to do.
A biological male has been named Woman of the Year.
Only in 2023 feminism would a man win an award for International Women's Day.
A biological male is making tens of thousands of dollars being the face of womanhood.
As amazing as Billie Jean King, Megan Rapinoe, these are feminists who fought for women's rights. But now both of these women, they're actively working to undermine everything they once fought for.
A biological male took home the award for Best Actress at the Golden
Strange
Globes.
times.
Are we really still trying to make the case that feminism supports women?
So I started to see all these
They
lies
say
and these
so.
myths as actually being abusive to women and girls.
Yeah, I am pissed that this nuanced fourth wave of feminism has said that men can be women.
It was all a lie. Being a modern working woman actually made me angry, lonely, and miserable.
This movement claims to be fighting for equality, but in reality, it's actually hurting women.
And actually, I think it's doing more harm than good.
Modern day feminism is a pill that you take from the pharmacy that causes an array of 100 different negative side effects that you choose to ignore.
The solutions that modern feminism proposes don't have much to say to the crises that a lot of young women feel like they're facing.
Most of them can't get married because
to
of
be honest,
that.
I don't really see the purpose in modern day feminism right now. Doesn't really seem to be achieving anything or progressing in any way.
Nowadays, I feel like feminism has become this women versus men debate.
It's always been like
Feminism. You're a Eurocentric feminist. Trend-based feminism, pretty privileged feminism, liberal feminism.
Because I've noticed over the last few years we seem to be losing the word woman. We might be called cervix havers or menstruators.
Thank goodness that so many of us are waking up to the fact that modern day feminism is a literal scam meant to disconnect and separate and isolate women from one another.
Feminists play into this victim narrative that women are victims of society, of the patriarchy, when we have so much power.
Wow, this is interesting. I think you actually notice that there's actually a change in the air. You can actually see that most females are actually realizing just how negative this movement is and has been over the years. What I always say is that when it comes to feminism, from the beginning, its focus was not very good because it was focused on saying men are the reason for our hurdles and roadblocks and every negative experience that we have had, especially in our own progression. And so what they did is they made men the enemy from the beginning. When you actually look at the origins of feminism, you actually understand that it was not rooted in something righteous at all. You must realize that these women who started this were actually college lecturers, and some women who were bitter because of their marriages were not working, things like that. Actually, I think one day I'll do a deep dive into the history of feminism and how it started. It was actually called the Women's Liberation Movement at the beginning. And their core values were actually fighting against men and the patriarchy that we call it that nowadays, and so many things. And they were like even promoting things like promiscuity, things like that. They wanted to do away with marriage and all those things. But even deeper than that, when you analyze these documents like the Jaffe Memo, okay, where you actually see that this was a plan even by the Rockefellers and people who were rich that time, who said that one of the ways we are going to make sure that we keep the population of people in check, even the black population and all those things, just to make sure that people don't reproduce anymore, we're going to introduce feminism and try to encourage women to go to work so that they don't really have time for family. And the next thing you know is that they have actually achieved those things over the years. And so in as much as that time females were actually not well represented, especially in the workforce, that time families were thriving, that time families were intact and homes were more stable. But over the years, as the liberation of women has been happening, you find that the instability of the family has become even more common now, and to the detriment of society, to be honest. And you find that women are growing up at the hands of nannies and helpers, with actually the parents, both of them being absent from the home. And so it's not a very ideal situation. I'm all for women actually having opportunities. It's actually very biblical. It's something that we should always aspire for. They need to have opportunities. If they want to aspire for something and dream to do something, let them do it. But for me, I always say, make sure your priorities are in order. Make sure you're prioritizing family. In as much as you can do everything else on the side, do that. Even the Proverbs 31 woman is depicted to be industrious, someone who actually brings money home as well. But her family, she's doing it all for her family. Her family is a priority. Her children is a priority. Her husband is a priority. Such a mindset is what the Bible teaches us. But most of the times when you hear when you listen to this propaganda so much, this activist rhetoric, over time you become very antagonistic to scripture. You start to see scripture as something negative, and that's how you know that you're actually losing your way. And so it's really important for us to understand some of these things that most women actually have come to support. We don't really understand the roots. The roots are so evil. Okay, so yes, we have to fight for the opportunity of women. But what has happened as well is that over time, females were comfortable playing the victim role. And I know they could relate to what the feminist movement was actually bringing forward, to say we need more females who are bosses and all those things. But over the years, they felt like, okay, we're comfortable as victims, and they pushed this thing to the point where now in our time, actually men are having less opportunities and women are taking up a lot more opportunities. It's not equal at all. It actually became very much one-sided, meaning women began to hog all the opportunities. And then you begin to wonder, to say, okay, now, did they really want equality, or maybe they wanted to dominate? Okay, because I feel like feminism was just a movement trying to make women to dominate. And so that's why now, even in our society, we actually have a very matriarchal society. I hope that word exists. But yeah, females are dominating in so many spheres. Sometimes it's not that they're actually being bosses, but sometimes it's that they can control the court system. They can control the movement of the media and the masses, because they can play the victim card well. You know, the Me Too movement, which came with that, and all those things. But there are actually so many negative things. And so when the trans movement came across, I think women felt like, okay, we have been victims for a long time, and so we can relate to these people who are also victims in our society. They didn't really understand what would end up happening later on, because now you find that women, after supporting the trans community when it was starting out, say we're all victims, we support you, we're together, we're a minority group as well, when actually women are the majority. But anyways, they pushed it that they're minorities, to the point that now the trans movement actually began to take the spaces that women actually originally occupied, and that was depriving so many women of these opportunities. And now women are actually okay, wait a minute, I thought these guys who could relate to them, but no, it's actually men who felt like they were women, and then they're coming to take up everything that was belonging to women, which is not a good thing at all. Women need to have their own spaces to express themselves and to achieve whatever they want to achieve. But when it comes to that, it became skewed, and then women woke up and said, okay, this is not really as good as it is. Right now, that's a state of society, and now society is actually protecting the trans community, and so feminists cannot do anything about it. Because now the LGBTQ community has become the higher group in the dominance hierarchy now, so they can play the victim card better than feminists. And so that's why you find that feminists are not winning the battle against the trans, okay, because society is inclined to them. Actually, when I'm saying society, I mean the West, because some of these things in Africa here we're just reading about and just watching on TV. But yeah, and you know about us. Actually, you saw an Eastern African country actually passing a law to ban all these things. So in Africa, I feel like there's still that morality at the core of our community and society. And so I pray that actually that is maintained. But this is what is happening. One day I'll do a deep dive into this. But what I'm saying is, feminism has always been females trying to fight against men, in as much as men have not been fighting back, okay? But what is happening now is that men, most of them have grown tired. They have grown tired of being blamed for everything. And so what is happening is that there's actually an extreme men's movement that is starting. Actually, the Red Pill community is very representative of that. And you find that people are starting to react very, very strongly to the females just taking up spaces now. And so this is what happens when someone plays the victim card, blaming the other group for so long. The other group will actually react extremely over time as well. It's not ideal. Both are not good. For me, I always say men and women are distinctly different, and we need to know what we're uniquely given by God to say, this is who we are and this is what we're supposed to do. If we understand that, we'll flourish as a society. The reason why our societies are crumbling is because females are abandoning their posts. The men are also abandoning their posts. And so what is happening is that instead of complementing each other, we're competing against each other. Instead of working together and staying in our strengths, our area of strengths, we're trying to mutate to become these strange versions of ourselves, to the point that we're actually just mimicking the other gender. The next thing you know is that females are abandoning their places, becoming caregivers, and also bringing forth children into the world. They're saying that is a distraction now. That is a negative thing now. What they want is to be working like what men have been doing over the years. And next thing you know is some men are actually now becoming, weirdly enough, they're saying, I'm going to take care of the children and you go work, I'll just be staying. That's also a very bad mentality. It's not even a Christian mentality. It's not something based on the Bible, no matter how you color it. I'm telling you the truth right now. So it's one of those things that as we do that, society will crumble. Believe me, we'll have population problems soon. And actually, they've already started, but it will be at a global level soon. With the way people are abandoning the place of home and families, they're trying to aspire for very small families. You find the people who are most capable to raise large families, they're having one child. And then you begin to wonder, to say, what's going on, man? Like, so it's really tragic for me. So, but anyways, I said we're going to react to the second video. This is a woman. I think this was a movie clip, but she literally spoke against the women's liberation movement, and I want you to listen to this. This went viral, I'm telling you, some time back. So let's look at it right now. It's this one.
To the traditional American family, a threat that is just as dangerous and even more insidious. The threat of the women's liberation movement. Well, let me be clear. I am not against women succeeding. I am not against women working outside the home. That's their choice. But what I am against is a small elitist group of Northeastern establishment liberals putting down homemakers. Now, the libbers love to say that they're dedicated to choice. But if you dare to choose the path of full-time mother, well, there must be something wrong with you. I mean, if you don't feel enslaved, well, you're just dumb and unenlightened. In fact, you're not even a person. Because you see, the women's liberation movement is basically a very negative attitude toward life. It tells women, sister, the cards are stacked against you. When you wake up in the morning, you won't get a job. And if you do, it won't be a good one. And if you get a good one, you won't get promoted. And if you get married, your husband will treat you like a servant. And marriage is just a lot of dirty diapers and dirty dishes. But don't take my word for it. But it is not enough that they're demeaning us in the press. Oh no. Now they want to use our miraculous Constitution to create a sex-neutral society through this so-called Equal Rights Amendment, which will mean that that baby girl will be drafted and the men will be at home nursing the babies.
Exactly what is happening in some
Can you
quarters.
imagine if Buck was left in charge of your children? Oh, God help us. Yes, that's right. It's ridiculous, and it's downright un-American. Because women are the primary caregivers in the home because we bear the children. And if the liberationists have a problem with that, they're going to have to take it up with God. Because what is going to happen if you push women out into the workforce is that women are going to find themselves with two full-time jobs. And they're going to be exhausted and unhappy and feel like they're not doing either well until eventually they decide not to have children at all. Maybe that's the liberationist goal. I mean, after all, their hero is Gloria Steinem, a single, childless woman nearing 40, but she is the sort of miserable, pathetic woman they aspire to be. She wants some kind of constitutional cure for her personal problems. And perhaps that is why the liberationists are trying to sow these seeds of discontent among we happily married women. They want us to join them in some new sisterhood of frustrated togetherness, because none of them can find a man who wants to marry them.
Oh my goodness, this was epic. For me, it was really funny. But there are so many truths that were actually spoken in this one. You have to understand that this movie, I think, was based on, especially the early stages of the women liberation movement. And so this agenda was there from the beginning. I think for us, every time, like for females, when they look at the feminism, they're like, oh, we're fighting for rights of women to have equal pay in the workforce and all that, without considering all the factors that go into it. It's just like we want to have equal pay, we want to have equal chances. But that's not really just what the women's liberation movement was about. Feminism isn't just about that. If that's the only thing you think about, you don't know what you're doing. I'm telling you. There is so much twisted ideology at play here. The people who funded this movement had bigger goals than actually your narrow view of I want to have a good pay at my company. It's bigger than that, I'm telling you. So they are achieving their goals right now. Okay? Right now, there are so many women who don't want to have children at all. You think that has just happened to you? Do you think that is just something you wanted? You are fed into an ideology, believe me. And in your mind, you're like, I'm being free. Actually, there's this movement on social media that says child-free movement. I'm like, imagine the wording of it. Okay, we're saying child-free as if having children is a disease. You know, as if we're free from it now. Imagine what is going on. For me, I am very much for family. I'm very much for women having opportunities, but at the same time, I also want them to be to align with their design and read, because everything about a woman screams mother. You are given a design that has to make sure it's function. I feel like this is actually a statement that is very interesting, but I feel like your design is actually a very vehement statement that says you will not fulfill your full potential until you fulfill everything you're designed to be and to do. I feel like a woman cannot really fulfill her full potential without really having children. I actually understand that there are some people who can't. There's some people who are having some problems. I get it, but we're not talking about the extremes here. We're talking about in an ideal situation, which is most people in the world who are actually capable of having children. For me, I feel like If such a thing is actually in your design, you have to make sure you actually experience that. It's one of the most beautiful things that you can do as a woman. Like, it's so part of your nature. You just have to experience. I don't understand, but you have to experience it. But anyways, feminism says no. So this movement has really been negative, believe me. And for me, one of the weirdest things is that the people who perpetrated this movement over the years, it's actually a very small group of people who were just noisy, who had the backing of big people, who were the loudest. And they made it negative for a woman to aspire to be a stay-at-home mother. A woman who prioritizes her family was stigmatized against. Like, these people labeled her as if she was a lowlife. Even now, even today, some women look down on housewives. They feel like, no, you can do more. It's like, for me, it's like, okay, you are literally for choice until someone chooses not to work. It's like, what are we doing? Okay. Feel like prioritizing your family is the most beautiful thing you can do. For me, it's the most beautiful. You can make all the money in the world you want. You can do whatever you want. Head an organization, whatever you want to do. For me, it cannot match raising and bringing into this world children and being there, making sure that you mentor them to become another version of you to some extent. That is the greatest privilege God has given us. And the Bible emphasizes that time and time again. So for me, I feel like this thing has done more harm than good. Actually, right now, this mindset, so many women are failing to unwind from it. And so it's not serving their marriages well. It's not serving their families well. And the men who actually are for this movement, most of them, you can actually see there's actually something disconnected in them, to the point where it's like, okay, they're not failing to actually speak exactly what is true. It's as if that someone is actually regulating them in what they say. You're like, come on, man. Like, some of these things are not right, but they can't say anything. It's like they're not strong men anymore. So the men have been spoken against for so long that some of them are choosing not to be manly anymore. But for us, we understand. We have no choice but to be manly. Our society needs us. We have to rise up. We have to be strong. And there are so many women in the body of Christ, even across the world, who are actually sticking to the morals of the Bible, who are the only ideas they are ingesting are the ideas that align with the Word of God. These women are precious and they're amazing. You see them across Africa, and it's really beautiful to see. And even in America, they are there, only that maybe they're not the loudest on media. So I get it. But I know God is up to something. All these things, these man-made religions, because I'm telling you, these things that we call activism actually become religions. These man-made religions, they are going to crumble. But if you have faith in God, you will last. That's what I'm telling you right now. So anyways, this is what we wanted to react to. Let me hear your thoughts in the comments. Please please subscribe to the channel. I know most of you are watching the videos, but please subscribe, support me. I really appreciate the support. Until next time, have a good one.